Hello and welcome. You are watching Gravitas Plus. I am Molly Gambhir. We have told you about the Belt and Road project, Chinese President Xi Jinping's ambitious initiative. The project is dubbed as this century's Silk Road. There is a belt of overland corridors and a maritime road of shipping lanes. The prospects were as promising as it gets. The Belt and Road connecting over 140 countries. There are roads, railway lines, shipping routes, ports, oil refineries, industrial parks, and power plants. But all of this, you see, comes with a hefty price tag. And we are not talking in billions, but in trillions. That's right. The Golden Project is estimated to cost $1 to $8 trillion. This is China asserting, or trying to assert, its dominance in global trade. The BRI was launched in 2013. It had its roadblocks, but for 8 long years, it stood uncontested. No other infrastructure project was as extensive or as expensive as China's BRI. In 2021, the European Union launched its own connectivity strategy, the Global Gateway. The EU promised to help underdeveloped countries. How exactly? By developing high-quality digital, energy, and transport infrastructure. It also aims to strengthen health, education, and research systems around the world. 2 years on, only a few projects are underway. There is a fiber optic submarine cable. It will connect several countries in Northern Africa to Southern Europe. There is a 5.4 billion hydropower plant in Tajikistan, which aims to reduce Central Asia's dependency on Russian energy. Global Gateway's USP is its promise of sustainability, benefiting EU economies, and boosting their global influence are the expected byproducts. The project was the EU's response to China's grand scheme. In theory, it was supposed to be neck and neck with the BRI, but the shoes, it seems, are just too big to fill. For starters, China has pumped in billions of dollars over the last 10 years, and it's going to splurge billions more. But all the European Union can manage is $318 billion till 2027. This, by the way, includes investments from the EU budget, member states, and the private sector. You see, the initiative does not bring any additional funding to the table. It is simply drawing on resources already allocated in the budget. Projects currently developing under Global Gateway banner would likely have happened anyway. You can say this is largely a rebranding exercise. And on top of that, the scale of Europe's plans pales as compared to the challenge. Where do a couple of $100 billion stand against a $1 trillion project? You see, half of Global Gateway's resources are earmarked for Africa. But what Europe is offering is still a mere drop in the ocean. Africa, after all, needs infrastructure investments of $150 billion per year. And like I just said, the EU's entire budget is $318 billion from 2021 to 2027. Meanwhile, China has achieved milestones in Africa that are difficult to ignore. Beijing has left a trail of state-of-the-art roads, railways, ports. There is Algeria's Chirchel Ring Expressway and port. It links the Mediterranean with the African interior. Ethiopia's Addis Ababa to Djibouti Railway. Port of Dorale, dubbed Ethiopia's gateway to world trade. The East Africa rail corridors. Kenya's Mombasa-Nairobi Railway, Mozambique's the Maputo-Katembe Bridge, which is Africa's longest suspension bridge. These are just a few examples, and all of this is courtesy China. Will the EU's Global Gateway be able to compete with this? And then there is EU's dependency on China. As I said, the Global Gateway project promises clean and green infrastructure. And what is vital to transition away from fossil fuels? The answer is what they call white gold. I'm talking about lithium. Whether it's rechargeable batteries for electric cars or electricity grid storage facilities for wind and solar power, lithium remains a key component. By 2050, the EU estimates its demand for lithium will be 57 times of what it is today. Raw materials will be soon as important as oil and gas. There's just one problem. Europe does not have much, and China happens to have them in abundance. Europe is 98% dependent on China for supply of rare earths. These are used for wind power generation, hydrogen storage, or batteries. For lithium, the dependence is 97%. And for magnesium, which is one of the EU's 34 critical raw materials, it is 93%. In many cases, the minerals are not extracted in China, but processed there. The EU also gets 80% of its solar panels from China. The imports were worth $22 billion in 2022. Europe already lacks reliable homegrown supply of fossil fuels. The Ukraine war made it abundantly clear. In the past 1 year, in fact, Europe scrambled for oil and gas as Russia shut off supplies. Now the fear is China also could exert similar pressure in the future, as the superpower plays a dominant role in raw material supply chains. And the European Union is well aware of this fact. It is desperately trying to play catch-up in the race. How so? By aiming to win a bigger say in China's backyard. It has offered closer political and investment ties to some 20 countries from across the Indo-Pacific region. On the 13th of May, foreign ministers from the EU and the Indo-Pacific gathered in Stockholm. The Indian Minister of External Affairs, S. Jaishankar, was there. So were delegates from the US, Japan, Pakistan, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, among other Indo-Pacific countries. But guess who was absent? The meeting was a snub to Beijing, which did not get an invite. You see, the EU is rethinking its dependence on China. For many years now, China has been criticized for creating debt dependence, particularly through its investment scheme. Its Belt and Road Initiative has played a pivotal role. The EU is now seeking to boost its footprint in the Indo-Pacific right under China's nose. Will it be able to achieve this? Chances are slim if it plans to do it through the Global Gateway. You see, on the surface, there may seem to be a comparison between the Global Gateway and the BRI. All facts and figures point that the two initiatives are poles apart. One is Xi Jinping's brainchild, his grand strategy to lure countries into debt traps, and the other seems to be a rebranding exercise, one meant to tout Europe's stance against China. Despite the EU being a huge provider of developmental aid, despite shelling out billions, the Global Gateway project pales in comparison to the BRI. China still remains uncontested on that front.